Hey, everybody, we're back with the Get Your Goat Golf podcast. You know, as a golfer in Michigan, winter, early spring is tough. You finish the year in late summer, early fall, super excited, wishing that the season wasn't over and how much better you're going to be able to get. And then the first couple of months into the fall and into the winter, I personally do some indoor golf league, but then as the heart of winter comes, it just gets to the point where you just can't really do much anymore. The indoor simulators get boring. Kids' sports are running full. I coach basketball, so then once the basketball season kind of starts to slow down, we get to that weird part where weather's not super great, little rainy, mushy, wet grounds. Boys are playing baseball, and you just kind of get excited about it, but it's not quite there yet. But then every year, like my starting point is when the Masters start. Once the Masters start, I almost feel like, okay, it's officially golf season. It's time to officially get out there. And usually I'm disappointed because usually if I'm lucky enough to get a nice day, there's other things that have to be done, or days that I don't have things to do. It's the weather's crap. So this year, there's been something else that's got me excited about golf. And quite frankly, I think I might have created a monster. My son Quentin, who's 16, he is a sophomore in high school. He's never really been much into golf. I mean, I've taken him in the past with me to ride along in the cart. He's putted. He's gone to the driving range here and there. Never really showed a whole lot of interest in golf. And then, I think he's never been much of a baseball player. I think he played baseball here and there, but nothing serious up until about the sixth grade. And then he took up track. And he really liked track. And last couple of years he did track, and then as a freshman he didn't really enjoy track that much. And so then it got to that point where for his sophomore year he didn't want to play track, or run track, I should say. And I suggested, hey, you should go out for the golf team. I had actually suggested it to him as a freshman, and he really wasn't interested in it. And this year, going into a sophomore year where it was like, I don't want to do track, he showed a little bit of interest into it, but not a ton. And then me and the mom kind of, laid it out to him that, if you are not playing a sport, you're going to have to get a job. And so, he quickly decided, hey, he wants to play golf. I explained several things to him. One of the things that I kind of told him is, I wished I would have played golf when I was in high school. I mean, the practice for golf is going out onto the golf course and playing golf every day. And it's free, and you get to learn. One of the cool things about his golf team is the local golf course, which is their home course. He can play it for free, not just during the season, but all season long. So even in the summer when they're done with golf for the school, he can go out there and golf for free. And so to me, that's fantastic. And, I always told him too, one of my great memories with my dad was golfing. I took up golf with my dad when I was about 13 or 14 is when I first started playing. Not serious by any means, but we'd go out here and there. I'd go out with him in his leagues and ride around the cart, things like that, which was right around the same time he took up golf too. So him and I kind of learned together. But I remember golfing with him up until the last year he was around, until he couldn't really golf anymore. And that's kind of what I explained to Quentin was, it's going to get to a point where you're out of high school and you can still go play this sport with your dad. And what great memories I had with Papa D, as he knows my dad. And, he really loved Papa D. So that I think that kind of stuck in his head a little bit. How, Papa D loved it. You had that great memory with your Papa D. So I think he thought a little bit of that into it as well. But I also told him, one of the reasons that I wished I would have done it in high school was because, when he gets out of high school, when he's 20, 21, 22, and he's not playing basketball, he's not playing football, he's not doing all these school sports that he used to do, and the only thing that his buddies are going to want to do is go out and golf to still get some competitive juices flowing. He's going to wish that, God, I wish I would have done this a little earlier. I wish I would have gotten a little bit better. And so, those are the things that I told him. And so, he decided he was going to play golf this year. And you know what? He has absolutely loved it. It's been fantastic. Right off the very beginning, he told me, this is fantastic. He looks forward to going and practicing every day. Golf is a little bit different in high school. There's not necessarily a JV or a varsity team. I mean, there is, but what they do is I think they've got 16 kids on their team. And what it is they golf all week, keep track of their scores, and like the top 6 or so, that's the ones that get to play in the varsity tournament the following week. And it changes from week to week. Now, he had no aspirations or goals of getting to play varsity or anything like that. If he did, he'd be happy, but he didn't really expect it to happen. And it was funny. After that first week, he told me, "Dad, I'm in the top 5," which I think surprised him a bit. Now, this first week, just this week that just passed, was the very first week that they did actually have tournaments, and he did not make those top 5 to get to play in that. But they did have a full team tournament just this past week. So even though he wasn't in that top 5, the JV kids still got to play. And he was excited. I think he was nervous. He didn't want my wife to go watch him. I wasn't going to be able to watch him because it happens during the day and I have to work. But I remember sending him a text that morning saying, just go have fun. I mean, golf is meant to be fun. So don't get out there and overthink it and overplay it. Just go out there. So, I'm going to go have a good time and go golf. I didn't really know what to expect from him. He was golfing with 2 kids that he didn't know. So I was waiting. And when the day was over and I got home from work and said, "How did it go?" And he had a big smile on his face and said it went fantastic and that he shot a 53 and that he was the 3rd best on his team, 9th best overall. I was ecstatic. And the joy in his face made me ecstatic as well. I have still yet to play with him this year since he's actually started golfing. And I got to be honest with you, with him telling me that he shot a 53, I mean, I can legitimately golf with him. And I'll have to go out and I'll have to play. Like I said, I don't shoot in the 50s very often, but sometimes I do. So, I mean, it's to that point now, which is fantastic, that if I go out there and golf with him, I have to play decent, or he's going to go out there and beat me, which is fine. If he ends up beating me, that's fantastic. That's what a father wants. I just don't know that I'm ready for him to do it yet. But like I said, I think I've created a monster. The kid literally goes out every single day and hits balls. So it's a shame that he's probably golfed 20, 30 times this year already, and I have yet to go out. Like I said, golfing in Michigan. I did go out today and did one of my normal practice drills that I like to do, and that's I go up to the local school, take a ball, take my wedges, and just start hitting the ball. And I did do that, and I hit them well. So I'm ready to get out there. I'm ready to go. And maybe tomorrow, maybe I can actually go out there and golf with my son now that he actually knows how to golf. And as a dad, as a golfer, I don't know if anything makes me happier than that. It's like finally I get to go do that. So that makes me excited. One of the things that that I have been doing this off season, though, I started really thinking about it and talking about it last year. It was one of the things that I wanted to do was focus on my flexibility, mobility a little bit more. One of the reasons that I'm thinking about that is because when I was watching my son take some swings the other day, his swing, he only goes back about halfway, not a full swing. And why that, I mean, he hits it fine, but why that kind of stuck out to me is last year when I actually started recording myself a little bit, that I noticed that I was doing that. And I was like, wow, that's, my swing doesn't look anything like I thought it would have looked if I would have guessed. I thought I was going way up high and coming down, and no, I was only going about this far back, which is exactly what he is doing. And so it kind of made it a point to, throughout the whole season, the off season, to really, really focus on flexibility, mobility, things like that. You know, I've always been a weightlifter, like for strength and things like that. And there's a benefit for that too, but I think that, you know, I focused so much in the past on muscles, that, I mean, the flexibility aspect of it, it was because I legitimately couldn't get my arms that far back. I was going back as far as that I thought that I could. And so I've really, really improved on that this year. Like I said, I've been doing 3 or 4 days of mobility training. My rotation is considerably better, and I think that's going to make a huge impact on my ball striking and the distance that I'm going to get on my shots. I saw it a little bit today when I did go out there and hit some balls. But I've spent a lot of time on it, and I think that's something that often gets overlooked, is mobility and flexibility training. I've watched a bunch of videos on it. I've listened to a bunch of golfers talk about it, and I've watched, you know, pro golfers swing, and when I watch their swing and how far they go back in their rotation. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, just when I really started paying attention to it, I was really impressed by how far they could go back. I'm just looking like, wow, look how far they're going back. And that was before I even realized that I was barely going back at all. So, like I said, I think it's a huge deal, and it's something that I've really, really been focusing on. You know, some of the other things that I've really been focusing on and really wanting to work on, and something that I've been really, really adamant at telling Quentin, is the short game and putting. I think it was John Daly who I've once heard say it, which is funny because, you know, John Daly was always known for hitting those long balls and things like that. And it was that to a new golfer, somebody's trying to get better and learn, is to focus on 100 yards and in. 100 yards and in. And if you really think about that, and as I was explaining it to Quentin the other day, that is really so important. I mean, when you watch the pros, and like I said, I'm by far no pro, but when you watch the pros, you know, they can all hit the ball long. They can all drive it far and down the center and things like that. But the difference is where the most strokes are made up is in that short game. And as I explained it to Quentin the other day, I said, you know, I want you to count your putts, for one, but also count the chips and things like that. Because I don't know how many times that I've hit a really nice drive, you know, where I've got myself within 100 yards of the green, and then take a 5 or take a 6. And quite frankly, if you get a shot, your first shot where you're within 100 yards from the pin, you really should be getting 3s, 4s at the worst. And if you're not, then that means you've got a lot of work to do on those short games. And so, you know, when Quentin started talking about that, and, you know, he counted his putts, and it'd be like 25 putts. And it's like, do you see why that's a problem? That's almost 3 putts a hole. And not to mention that, it's almost half of all of your shots. When you shoot a 53, 25 of those are putts. Just think about how much better you do if you would just get those down to 2 putts, or even 1 putt in some of those holes. So if you can get down to where you're at in between 15 and 18 putts instead of 25 putts, all of a sudden you're shooting in the mid 40s to low 40s. And that's just putting. When you start talking about chip shots and under the green and things like that, and those are the things that can set up the putts as well. I mean, even if you're 30 to 40 yards from the hole, 30 to 40 yards, you should put yourself in a position to where you're getting close enough to 1 putt. Some of the really good players are sometimes from that distance, they're looking to make that shot. So if you really think about it, how many strokes you can save just by chipping and just by putting. And what's crazy about that, and what I've tried to explain to Quentin, is those are things that you can just practice in your backyard or in your house. We have a small little putting green, little 9-foot putting green, but I use that sucker all the time. If you get to where you're making almost all your 9-foot putts, and I mean, my little putting green, I'm not talking about a real putting green. I'm talking about a mat that I put out in my living room, and it's a straight putt. But if you can make 90 to 100% of straight putts at 9 foot and shorter, that's just going to help you out immensely. And I think that really helped my game out last year. Still struggled with some of the longer putts, the lag putts to get you inside of that 9 feet. But I felt like my short putts were pretty solid last year, and I think that helped out a lot. And I think that had a lot to do with having that little putting mat that just keep in my living room. Drives the wife crazy, but I just keep it out in my living room and I just putt. Like every day I go out and putt. I got a couple balls laying right there. My putter's laying right there. If I'm watching TV, I'll get up there in the commercials and putt. If I'm not doing anything else, I get up and I putt. And I think that makes a huge difference. Just little things like that you can do. I don't have a great big backyard, but I have a yard big enough where I can work on 20, 30-yard chip shots. Like I said, I've got a trampoline out there that I line up, and it's got a net on it, and I work on chip putts, trying to get it up over the net and into the trampoline, working on those little 20-yard shots and flop shots and things like that. Those two type of things, if you can get those two things to work out well for you, and you'll really, I think, see the difference in the scores. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that I'm going to be working on. Those are the things that I'm going to try to get Quentin to working on. I remember when I was a 16-year-old kid playing golf, and I hear it with him too. He wants to go out there and drive. He wants to take his driver out and hit it as far as he can. And, that's one of the first things that he talked about when he played in that tournament last week was, the two kids that he was playing with hit their balls to the right and into the water, and he smacked his down the middle 200 and something yards. And, that was the biggest thing that he wanted to tell me about all day. And I remember that. And sometimes when I'm out there with my buddies today, you want to hit the ball far. You want to take your driver out. And you want to let the big dog eat, and you want to just hit that thing. And that's great. And you should be able to hit your driver straight, and that helps out a lot, and it really sets up things. Like I said, it's the short game that you really, really need to focus on. And hopefully I can teach him some good habits, and that's what he can do. God, maybe he'll be beating me here soon. I hope so. I hope so. I obviously hope to improve every day, but I love that I just created a monster, and I love that I have a built-in golf partner for the rest of the summer. So great times, but once now the golf season's actually amongst us, I think you'll start seeing me a little bit more. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. But yep, springtime's here, summer's coming up. The golf content's going to be coming. So hey, stick around, enjoy the ride. Watch me as I continue to be a subpar golfer who's trying to become a subpar golfer. Until next time, thanks guys.